Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Moving Behavioral Research Online, the Next 6 Months.
And I'm pleased to introduce my colleagues from EyeSee, Mirna, who is the head of Insights and has worked at leading research firms and one of the major European telecommunications companies before joining EyeSee.
Yeah, let's start.
So we'd like to share with you results from several studies we've conducted recently. The first group of tracker studies where we gauge what people are doing, how they're thinking and feeling. We've done that in both the US and in Europe so that we have that perspective and comparison.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan. Thanks for the intro. This is precisely what we will be talking about today. Recently, we've just finished the last wave of our tracker study, both in the US and Europe. And it will be interesting to see how those two compare. So what were the changes, what we did get right, and what are some of the things that we missed? So let's take a deeper dive.
So yes, we recently ran an advertising replication study to see how the results during the crisis hold up and if they're comparable to the results from 10 months ago. Basically, we wanted to make sure that the results are reliable enough and that our clients can safely continue testing given the change in circumstances. In a nutshell, the data is still valid and stable in both second and the third wave of the study.
And speaking about social media, our last wave of tracker study actually showed the increase of reliance on social media to gather information about the pandemic. So from 47 to whooping 65% of people this year. And naturally, we wanted to see how all this affects advertising and brand positioning on social media. So we've partnered with Twitter to explore exactly this, how the adjacent content next to the ads impact or doesn't impact the ad performance. And luckily for brands, both favorability and consideration remained on the high level, so around 60 to 65% on average, regardless of the topics that surround the actual ad. But yet, this is just a piece of a puzzle. So there's another very important component to it where users of social media are very vocal about what they expect brands to do. And they expect brands not just to remain neutral regarding important social topics, but also to take a stance. So around 50% of people actually expect of their favorite brands to communicate on the important topics that are going on in the world.
Respondents nowadays are very attentive and open to messages from their brands, but it's essential to be sensitive and informative and work on building brand equity. This is the right time to communicate that you are there, that your product is in stock, and what are you doing to help?
Our advice will remain the same. Test your ads in a realistic social media environment that will enable you to get real insights on ad effectiveness. Nowadays, it's completely possible to recreate any digital or simulate any real life environment. So from social media timelines to virtual stores to e-commerce websites. Wherever your product naturally lives, we can replicate it and test it.
So basically, we ran a tracker study on consumers from the United States, France, and Germany in the past few weeks. We saw that as much as 45% of the United States respondents have changed their online habits, and even more of them predict they will change in the upcoming period as well. For most of them, this change means they will start buying online more frequently.
Yeah, and consumers were right. The online behavior significantly changed in the past year. From 22% of people who expected they will be shopping more online, we are measuring whooping 57% now that are expecting they will be shopping online. Most of the consumers ended up doubling the frequency with which they shop online.
We also saw that people will begin buying more non-perishable and locally produced goods, with Americans stocking up on over-the-counter medicine, larger packs, and multi-packs. We might see a fuller pantry become a standard practice in the lives of future shoppers.
And with the increased frequency, the type of goods changed as well. Last year, we had consumers buying non-perishable goods, preparing probably for the pandemic and lockdowns. But now we are adapting to new normal, and we are actually buying more fresh food and more organic products. Over-the-counter medicines are also finding their way into our online shopping baskets.
There is also a clear stance on what features will win consumers over to specific retailers, such as free delivery or low prices, a priority for over 50% of the respondents globally.
So yes, free delivery and low prices are all-time favorites, pandemic or not, so no surprises there. But what is interesting to notice is that the convenient product return process gains significant importance. The last wave of our tracker studies showed that the increasing number of people are planning to buy more clothes online, while other studies suggest that as much as 30% of people order several sizes to try out with the plan to return what doesn't fit to the producer. This leads to around 40% of shoppers to actually return the products that they purchased, which puts a significant pressure on warehouses and fulfillment centers and possibly creates stock shortages. With the latest development in technology, there has to be a better way to make better choices online. Okay, so to wrap it up, as expected, we correctly anticipated that people will be increasingly moving to the online channels, so we got that one right. What wasn't expected as much is how quickly the new normal settled in. And when it comes to social media, it came as a bit of surprise that people will be relying so much on social media to gather information about the COVID-19 from that channel.
Thank you to the audience for joining us today. If you have additional thoughts or questions, please feel free to reach out to us.
This is it. Thank you so much for listening to our recap, and stay tuned for the next episode.